Yeah, what's up, guys? This is the video you've all been waiting for. Trenbolone Unleashed. You guys ask and I answer. We're going to get down to the no BS, the nitty gritty, everything you've ever wanted to know about Trenbolone. Let's get right into it. Hit this hard, hit this home, because I've been getting asked this question a lot in this video to be made. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with everything on my site. I've got a lot of stuff going on. So having said that, let's get into Trenbolone Unleashed. What is this compound, dosage protocol, the pros and cons? What is Trenbolone? Trenbolone is a veterinarian steroid, mainly designed to beef up cattle before they slaughter it. It was meant to preserve lean mass and keep up appetite, and while the cattle were in transit from, location to location, whether it's the ranch to the slaughterhouse or whatsoever, they wanted to make, obviously, more money. That's what it's about. Trenbolone was designed to increase the lean mass of these cattle, basically before they go ahead and they slaughter them. What they found out when experimenting with the cattle, excuse me if I'm running a little slow, I'm running diet brain here, obviously, as I'm getting leaner. Basically what they found out, guys, is Trenbolone is far more effective in cattle when they combined Trenbolone implants, which was the original Finaplex, which went behind the ear. When they combined Trenbolone with estrogen implants, they found out that Trenbolone was much more effective. And knowing what we know now is that estrogen basically upregulates the androgen receptors, which makes them more powerful. And also Trenbolone obviously does not aromatize at all to DHT or estrogen. Granted, it's a lot stronger. That's, you guys, the secret of bulking on Trenbolone, is you need to keep your estrogen higher, either, stacked with testosterone, no AI, Dianabol, or, Anadrol would be preferred. Even though Anadrol does not aromatize to estrogen, Anadrol still binds to some of the estrogen receptors, and you're going to get that same effect as if you had higher estrogen in your steroid cycle. But that's the key. That's the takeaway here. You want huge gains on a Trenbolone cycle. You need to keep your estrogen higher. You can't even fight me on this, because there's so many studies done with cattle to basically prove that. Of course, you could be like, oh, well, it doesn't translate to humans. Well, I can tell you from my experience, and also experience with clients and many other athletes, your gains on Trenbolone are way greater if you're running a higher estrogenic compound, such as testosterone alongside, or anything that converts to estrogen in that regard. Getting back to it, I got a little off subject there. Trenbolone, what is it? Like I said, basically for cattle, to lean them up, beef them out, and also preserve shipping weight. What is it? It's a nandrolone, guys, a 19-nor derivative. Trenbolone is a 19-nor steroid. Keep in mind there's testosterone derivatives such as equipoise, Dianabol, testosterone, DHT derivatives, that's Primo, Anavar, Winstrol, and then there's the 19 nors, also known as nandrolones, which would be Trenbolone, Ment, and some of these other steroids that fall into this category. So Trenbolone is a 19 nor nandrolone in that regard. Yes, Trenbolone, guys, does act as a slight progestin, which means that it binds to progesterone receptors. Granted, you should not have to take Caber with this compound unless you're running a very high dosage of Trenbolone. Obviously, that's genetic dependent, but that's what Trenbolone is. It's a 19 nor, also known as a nandrolone derivative. It does not convert to DHT, estrogen, or any other metabolite. So there's no need for estrogen control whatsoever. This compound, on paper, anabolic-wise, is 5 times more anabolic than testosterone, and also 5 times, I don't know, that was a 3, 5 times more androgenic than testosterone. So in total, 5 times more powerful in both regards as testosterone. Obviously, does this play out in real life? Yes and no. No, it does not if used alone. If you're stacking this, like I said, with something that either aromatizes into an estrogen, like I said, testosterone, Dianabol, or a compound such as Anadrol, which actually binds to some of the estrogen receptors, your gains are going to be much greater. And yes, it does live up to that 5 times stronger than testosterone. Then we know Trenbolone, in regard to bodybuilding, strength, and everything else, Strength on Trenbolone. Trenbolone is amazing for strength, especially during dieting. Trenbolone, great compound. It's androgenic, guys. It's androgenic. No ways if and about that. It's great for strength. It's great for aggression. It's great for, power lifters, especially, 1 to 5 reps. After that, is it okay? It's okay. It's kind of taxing though. Trenbolone is a pretty harsh compound. There's no if and two ways about it. Trenbolone is toxic, so I don't recommend running this compound for extended periods of time. Your best bet with running Trenbolone, guys, and I advise this as a coach and a PED expert, run the short ester, the acetate, or run Trenbolone base if you wish. I would use this compound for a couple weeks on, or until you start feeling toxic. Get off for a couple weeks. Get back on. Once you feel okay, get off. Get on, get off. It's not a compound you want to be running nonstop year-round just because Trenbolone is a harsh compound. It's not liver toxic. Does not damage the kidneys unless it's at, we don't have studies, but Trenbolone is not toxic at all to the organs. Yet still it is a harsh compound. Regardless, it's very androgenic. So I would advise taking a couple weeks on. Once you start feeling kind of toxic, you start feeling the harsh side effects, get off. Once you cycle on and off, that's your best bet with this compound. Testosterone obviously could be used year round. In terms of mass gains with Trenbolone, like I said, Tren is amazing for mass gains. I would not use it as a staple, guys. Don't use it as a staple in your bodybuilding regimen. You're going to want to be using this compound as basically a secondary. So in a mass building cycle, testosterone is going to be high dose. We'll just throw a number out there. We'll say 1,500 milligrams testosterone per week. Trenbolone, you're going to want to be running, as a secondary, maybe around 400 milligrams per week. Now, this is what I would recommend for a bigger guy, somebody who's more experienced. But basically, the point is Trenbolone is going to be the secondary compound. It's not going to be the main mass driving compound in your cycle. Many pros know this. They all know this, in fact, and that's what they use it for. Pre-contest, if you're getting ready for a show, that's a completely different matter. Yes, high-dose Tren works wonders. And, testosterone, how low do you want to go with it? You can keep your test and Tren the same. They could be 1-to-1. Some people want to run testosterone lower. It's personal preference as far as that goes. So mass gains on Trenbolone, amazing. Like I said, mass gains are so much greater if you use an estrogenic compound and you keep your estrogen higher. Mass gains are much greater. And if you're estrogen sensitive, get your glands removed. Otherwise, don't cry about it because, there's nothing you can do. If your estrogen is lower, or if you're not running your estrogen high enough on this compound, you're not going to make anywhere near the mass gains you could possibly make if you were running this compound with higher estrogen levels. Number two, we talked about strength, great for mass building. Let's talk about something a little bit different. Trenbolone, fat loss, real, no bullshit. We're going to talk about fat loss and Trenbolone. We're going to talk about personal experience, and we're going to also talk about clients and many people that I've worked with as far as Trenbolone as a fat loss agent. You're going to hear a lot of different stuff on this and on the internet and on the forums, and you're not going to know what to believe. You hear Jerry Ward, which is BioS3, I think it is. I remember he was one of the first Trenbolone videos I had ever watched. He says, Trenbolone, doesn't really do anything for fat loss, this, and that. That's not true, guys. Trenbolone is amazing for fat loss, flat out. And the higher dosage you go with Trenbolone, the better it is for fat loss. That's the no BS answer. If you're running Trenbolone at like 1,000 milligrams per week, real Tren, you're not really going to store fat anymore. That's just the plain and simple truth. Your metabolism and the way your body digests food, carbohydrates, insulin sensitivity, protein turnover, and your whole metabolism is going to change. And the higher dosage you go with Trenbolone, the more this is going to occur. Let me say that again. The higher dosage, the more fat loss, the more you're going to keep that weight off. Trenbolone, how Trenbolone works, guys, and how this works for any steroid. There's studies showing, Anavar specifically targets body fat, blah, 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 and there's all these other studies. And I'm out here telling people, guys, it has nothing to do with the structure of the compound. The stronger of an androgen the compound is, the stronger the fat loss effect. There's receptors inside your adipose tissue, inside your fat cells. Basically, when testosterone, DHT, comes into contact, it says, speed up the rate which fat is broken down. So trenbolone, 5 times more powerful. Yes, your fat loss is going to be a lot greater on this compound, because it's so much more androgenic than testosterone or these other hormones. So in terms of fat loss, trenbolone works amazingly. Obviously, the higher dosage you go, the better it works. I would not advise it for just fat loss alone, but that's the no BS answers. Trenbolone is amazing for fat loss. Now, if you're somebody who's naturally super lean, are you going to notice the fat loss? No, but somebody like me, I'm a mesomorph and also an endomorph, which means I build muscle easier, but I also store fat really easy. And for me, this stuff keeps me a lot leaner, noticeably leaner. Trenbolone does. Otherwise, what else? Talked about the pros. Let's talk about, actually, I'm not done talking about the pros. What else is amazing about trenbolone? Nothing will make you look like trenbolone does. Nothing does. You will not look as good on Masteron, Winstrol, any of these other compounds. Trenbolone gives you that pop to your physique. It gives you that tight look. It's going to give you dryness. It's going to give you that tight shrink wrap. It's going to give you a very hard, dense look. Much like Winstrol. Winstrol is amazing at drying, pulling the sub-Q water from under the skin. I don't think anything does it like Winstrol does, but trenbolone comes in a very close second and gives you a very hard, grainy look. Trenbolone, thumbs up for that. Pre-contest, mass building strength, amazing compound. Fat loss, great compound. It's just used incorrectly a lot of times. People don't know how to run trenbolone. Those are the pros. Dosages, I'm almost hesitant to give out dosages, but I will. Like I said, if you're using this for primarily bulking, you're going to want to, lower dose, maybe around, 300, 500 milligrams per week. If you're going to use this as a cutting, more of a, pre-contest cutting cycle, for fat loss, the sky's the limit in regards to trenbolone. Take it as high as you can go with sides, or if you have any other issues. Otherwise, dosing, it's really dependent upon the individual. Some people shouldn't even use trenbolone. Some people get terrible side effects. I'm one of these people that can run tren, I can run as high as I want and I don't get any issues. So it's really dependent on the individual. Let's talk about cons for a second. Cons, trenbolone. What are the bad things about tren cough. Tren cough, basically what happens is you're injecting trenbolone some of the time just because how this compound's structured. Once it hits the bloodstream, it causes, the bronchi in the lungs to basically seize up. It causes constriction. Dilation is when the blood vessels get bigger. Constricting, obviously is when they get smaller. Trenbolone, just the nature of the compound, once that little bit leaches into the bloodstream, maybe you nicked a blood vessel, maybe you didn't, who knows, but when that first hits your system, it causes a constriction of the blood vessels in the alveoli in your lungs, giving you gasping for air, a tight feeling in your lungs, you can't get air. Some people get it all the time, some people don't. It's dependent upon your genetics again. What else? People say aggression, night sweats, insomnia. These are some things that people get from trenbolone. Increased, if you're prone to male pattern baldness, it's also something you're going to get. People say, can give them libido problems. Something easily remedied by using Caber and HCG on cycle. You should always be using HCG when you're running pro hormones and steroids and SARMs. You have to be doing that to minimize side effects, maximize gains. That's a whole nother video. Let's see here. What else? With aggression and night sweats and insomnia and all these other terrible things, 9 times out of 10, you start at a low dose and you slowly work your way up. Your body's going to adapt. You're going to be fine. These side effects will go away. They'll be gone. Otherwise, if you work your way up and even at a really low dose, you're getting these terrible side effects, don't use Trenbolone. Okay, that's the thing. If you've used a really low dose of Tren for, let's say, 4 weeks, and the side effects are terrible, just as bad as day one, don't use Trenbolone. Trenbolone's not for you. Okay, just stop. So that's the best advice I can give you. Is that if the compound's not working, don't use it. If you're having terrible side effects, don't use it. If you can't stand the sides. If it's keeping you up at night, you're getting terrible night sweats, you feel like shit. Don't use Trenbolone. Don't be a bodybuilder. That compound's not for you. Okay. Most people don't have these issues. Most people either have no issues or they adapt really quickly. Trenbolone, the one thing that Tren does, in my personal experience, for me, it gives me a really short fuse. Just a fuse that I can't deal with bullshit. Somebody's doing something stupid, it makes me want to rip their head off. Okay, that's pretty much it. Testosterone, I could run tests. It doesn't even matter. I could run 5 grams of testosterone. I feel happy-go-lucky. I've got no worries in the world. I'm wonderful, right? I use some Trenbolone. Trenbolone immediately makes me, I just don't want to deal with any crap. I can't deal with anybody's BS. And I'm the most laid back, nicest person ever. Trenbolone makes me, just really focused, and I have a short fuse. Will it turn you into me in person? Put it this way, whatever issues you have normally, if you go on Tren, they're going to be amplified. So for me, I don't want to be like, oh, I have no issues because everybody's got issues. But for me, it's minimal. So, and I've adapted to Trenbolone pretty well. That's pretty much it. I've seen some of Pete Rubbish's video on Tren. Oh, you're going to break up with your girlfriend. This compound's going to mess up your relationship. You're going to get, you'll be terrible. You'll be a dead. That's him. That's somebody who shouldn't be taking Tren in the first place. Okay. Or probably a lot of anabolics. If he would have ran that cycle for more than a couple weeks, maybe he would have adapted and he would have been fine. But for him, Trenbolone doesn't mix. So it's dependent upon the individual. Some people, I know a lot of people, they go on Tren and, they're going to lose their girlfriend. They're going to be dicks. They're going to be assholes. They're going to ruin their relationships. They're going to script their family life. They just turn into cocks, okay? But originally they were kind of a cock in the first place. Maybe they're a little dick and then they start taking Trenbolone. Not that they have a big dick, but they're just, they're just the biggest assholes you'll ever meet. So in that regard, yeah, it's true. Will all anabolics do this? Yes, to a small degree. Trenbolone's obviously the worst. So, if there's anything to take away from the video, Trenbolone, best compound you've ever used. Strength, size, mass gains will make you look better than anything else. Used correctly in the correct dosages. If you have questions, go to my website, contact me for coaching or get a phone call, and I will give you the best advice, safety, whatever information you want. Okay, so you use these compounds correctly. Otherwise, 2 side effects are manageable. I already give out the dosing. It's dependent upon the individual. But Trenbolone, amazing compound. Does it work? Yes, it's the bodybuilder's drug. Like I said, that's pretty much the lowdown on Trenbolone. Super dangerous no, Trenbolone's pretty safe. You just need to be taking a little bit of time off. You don't want to be running this for a year straight. Obviously, that's pretty much it, guys. As with all anabolics, I advise getting blood work done, every 2 months just to see how you react to these certain compounds. But that's it. That's the lowdown on Trenbolone Unleashed.